I started realizing that it's like all of the like spaces or pockets, I would say, in my interactions with this group and these people, the lacking of the like humanness became more and more apparent. It was very much like it was that 100% swing to that side of like, you create your full reality. You are 100% responsible for everything that happens to you. Basically, like all of this like ideology and, like for lack of a better term, very culty like stuff, because the way the organization was set up, it's just everything was very much like this. I was like, suddenly it just became like, what am I doing here? Like this doesn't feel right.
Welcome to Conversation for the Soul. I'm Linda Christine. I cannot tell you what an amazing conversation I had with Kris Aguilar today. Oh my gosh. This woman has really run the gamut on her spiritual, non-spiritual, so to speak, journey. I chatted with her, I believe it was a year ago, October, and very different conversation than the one we had today. And I feel like this path that she is on is not dissimilar to a path that a lot of us are on. In fact, during the course of our conversation, there was a lot of alignment between where she is landing on her spiritual, non-spiritual journey, and to where I am heading on mine, and a lot of other people that I've been talking to are going also. So I think you'll really like this conversation. If nothing else, it will give you a lot to think about. And we do, forewarning, kind of go on a heavy journey on nutrition stuff, because this is where she's headed in her new path. And we talk a lot about things that could trigger some folks, like not being vegan and how that has been dangerous for her health. So consider that when you're watching. If you can go into it with an open mind and just be very neutral and accepting, I think you'll find the conversation very interesting. We talk about a lot of eye-opening things that we as humans have been programmed to believe over the years, along the lines of nutrition as well. So interesting stuff. Love her light, love her energy, love Kris, and I think you will too. Okay, this meeting will be live streamed. Got it.
Oh my God.
It's getting real.
I just want to pet.
Oh, there we are.
So bad. Are we on there?
Yep, we're on there.
That's cute.
I just had to close that one out. So, Kris, how are you?
Oh man, what a question. In this moment, I've been pretty nervous coming back kind of online, if it were, because I've been gone for a little while. I kind of went away in March, I think it was. And then, yeah, when I came back, I went onto Facebook and I was like, whose Facebook is this? It just didn't, like, nothing was vibing anymore. I was like scrolling through the feed and I was like, who are these people? Like, I had no idea. I was quite literally in a twilight zone. It just felt so
Wow.
strange. I was like, and then I started like laughing. I was like, oh man, look at my profile. I was like, oh wow, okay. I have changed so much. And so I kind of sat with that for a little bit and I was like, it's a lot of work to go and unfriend all these people if they don't, if they don't vibe with me. So I just decided to kind of start over and just start a fresh page. But then I've been in sort of like a freeze mode as to like what I say. because I have dropped a lot of what I used to believe before and the path that I was on and all that stuff. So I'm not quite sure where I stand with myself in public, and I'm kind of just letting it be that right now. So the invitation to talk with you feels almost like an initiation back in, because one of my biggest, I would say, fears is having people see me, and for some reason, especially on cameras, like I've always been a very nervous person behind a camera, and so consider this me kind of just coming up against the edge of my fear and being here. So
Well, I am honored to have you here and cannot wait to hear more of the unfoldment of your story. I do want to say one thing though, that profile picture of you right now, that black and white, wow. You can see total transformation in that image. Being a photographer, I can read that. I've come to read that over the years, and there's just so much unbridled joy and centeredness and just happy with being that I see come through in that photograph. Do you feel that? Do you feel that embodied now, or are you still a little tenuous?
I would say more tenuous. You're heading down one direction, and then you totally like back up and go down a different path. And so there's been a lot of fear coming up as well, just because I've left a lot of things behind in the last little while. A lot of friends that I had made along this path, as far as like the spiritual seeking path, at least one brand of it, I'll get into that later. A lot of them don't resonate with me anymore. It feels like we've outgrown each other in a lot of ways. And so I had to, let a bunch of things and people go in the last few months. And it's dropped me back into that place of like a lot of fear. And just the fear of the newness and is this my wounds? Is this the fear I have of people being close to me? Or is this really just what I'm supposed to be doing? And yeah, I've been trying to decipher those, like separating, I guess, the wounds from the truth. I mean, wounds are truth, of course, but they're also like filtered truth. So it's hard to see sometimes the truth of it. So I mean, I have a lot of joy, absolutely. It's been a kind of a wild go in the last few months specifically, but I do feel just like kind of grateful to be alive, if that makes sense. It's been a really crazy, life, but also just the past year, I would say, has been specifically very, very difficult. Ryan and I have been going through a ton together and individually, and then putting, two people who are going through a lot in the same house. It's just there's been just like a growing spaciousness and like an ebbing and flowing of like feeling okay and then going back into wounds and feeling not okay and feeling okay. And it's sort of just like, I would say, this right now. So unbridled joy, possibly in moments, absolutely. I wouldn't say it's like the steadiness, the steady norm by any means, but I'm also kind of just accepting that life isn't always just unbridled joy. At least for me, sometimes I find just the most treasure in being, going through the muck and grieving and all of that stuff. But I'm also quite excited to turn a corner. I would say like tip the scales as far as grief goes, onto the other side where maybe I'm grieving a little bit less, just because there's been so much density in the last few years. I'm looking forward to a lot more joy. Let's just put it that way.
Well, and you've made some big strides too. I don't know that can you live 100% in joy all the time? I don't think it's part of the human experience. It seems like, at least for me, when I turn a corner and I feel like I'm in that space most of the time, then something comes, hits me upside the head. It's like, oh, okay, now I have to experience this thing. It's going to take me out of a little bit of joy and put me into the muck.
Yeah, it's funny because the more joy and the capacity I have to feel joy, the more deeply I'm able to feel grief. So it's like the deeper I go, the higher I can get. But I can't quite go as high without going as low. And I don't mean that in like a manic depressive kind of thing. I just mean that in like it's like you dig out, and then you're able to like grow the mountain that high. Like,
yeah,
the lower you're able to feel, the more like joy becomes just so easy to have. It's like, man, I felt like I am in this hole, I am in the muck, and I feel like I'm close to death. And it's like the littlest things can bring you so much joy, just by consequence of being so low. So I very much see the gifts of the dark. In reflection, like I can't believe how much darkness, exists sometimes for one person, for some people, for a collective. But I also just am accepting that as sort of like the human experience, a lot more these days, I would say, instead of like trying to get to that place that like, ooh, 5D stuff. Like we'll get into that, I'm sure, in a bit, but I've totally just like dropped all of those kinds of seeking, for a more, I guess, down to earth, sort of everyday, mundane almost, approach.
well, I subscribe to that as well, because I think that's part of the spiritual experience too, where, okay, just for me, and Mulder agrees with me, by the way. Just for me, the experience of over consuming all that spiritual stuff and almost to a point of being obsessive with it, and then going, wait a minute, there's a whole life out here that I'm neglecting. I just want to go for a bike ride with my husband. Or I just want to go down and have a glass of wine at the new tap room or whatever, and go camping. Just, I'm here to be human.
Mhm.
Somehow that needs to come first over the spiritual beingness. And I think that's kind of the balance. And personally, I went off to one side way too far, and now I've pulled myself back and going, I came here to experience all this shit. Bring it on. I'm going to experience it all, because I'm here to do that first and foremost, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. That's it right there. That's exactly it. I swung so far into the other side where I was just like,
it's easy to do.
It's
exciting.
Easy. Well, it's intoxicating too. Like the idea that there's this like federation of beings sitting in a council and you're like a select number of 144. It's just, there's so many. And like, sure, maybe if that is true, okay, cool. But to fly around in that sort of, I guess, in that like extreme, and to not like bring it back to like, okay, why are we here then? Might as well just stay up there.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So why are we here? And so I really came back crashing to earth, well, slowly over the last, I would say, up until August, and then it kind of just hit. I was like, this is not my path anymore. And thank goodness, in the background I had been acquiring all of the other like more human grounded, like emotional interrelating skills, that once I kind of dropped the spiritual, like, I guess I want to say ideology of that, I was really held by my humanness. Like, it's like I was able to be like, wow, okay, this stuff was cool to like, you know, mess around with and believe in so fully, and place all of my, eggs in that basket. But then once I came into this like sort of middle place, it becomes a whole new like it's a challenge. It's integrating both of those things. And I really think this is where the richness is being able to have a connection to divinity and source, whatever that means to you, but to not use that as an excuse not to like take responsibility for the things, the way that you say cause hurt in others, like accountability, and just being able to interrelate emotionally and have like maturity, like all of these skills that I wasn't finding over here when I was like codependent. I'm still a little codependent in some ways, but I would say like when the bulk of me was codependent versus like I am completely self-sourcing, like I create my full reality, like nothing, that sort of like narcissistic spirituality. I went deep into that. Combining those things, that's where I'm at right now, is like taking the gifts from that, the gifts from this, and creating this like mature little sort of container for them to all sit in. But then discarding what wasn't working from sort of either side of those things. Because I was very naive, you know, and that's okay. Like it's not a judgment thing. I just got sort of taken for a bit of a ride by, you know, my soul. Sure, I wanted to go experience those things. I very much feel like I'm home, and that I'm just getting started. Like you and I having this conversation is quite interesting, the timing, just because it's like the precipice of like my next stage is starting.
Oh, beautiful.
So it's beautifully timed, and I'm very appreciative for the invitation. So yeah, that's
invitation always stands for you, my dear. So were there any like specific situations that happened that really drove this home for you? Because I do feel, and I hate this phrase, but I don't have another one at hand right now, the new normal for spirituality is finding the balance and leading by example rather than being up here, spiritual person, being down here, earth-based, yet leading by example. Were there situations that brought that home for you?
Oh, yes.
Do you care to share?
Oh, this is the meat right here. So yes, I'm super excited to share this part. Yeah, so around March, when I decided to take a leave of absence from Facebook and from just generally being publicly available, like I couldn't message anyone back. I just needed to take a break. I started working with a few sort of self-mastery mentors, if you will. And I was like, okay, this is going to be the thing that helps me, I guess, quote unquote, master myself. Like I was feeling like I was going over old things, old wounds, old patterns. And I was like, I think I need someone to sort of help guide me. So I found, you know, this organization and I started working with them, and I was feeling kind of like, you know, good. I was like, cool, this is going to be the thing. And then I started working with them in a larger capacity, and it was amazing. Like the pay was incredible. I had like, you know, a lot of responsibility. So I was just like, you know, really coming into my own, and I was like practicing all of these like skills I had learned, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So time goes on, and this past summer, I started realizing that it's like all of the like spaces or pockets, I would say, in my interactions with this group and these people, the lacking of the like human-ness became more and more apparent. It was very much like it was that 100% swing to that side of like, you create your full reality. You are 100% responsible for everything that happens to you. Basically, like all of this like ideology and, you know, like for lack of a better term, very culty like stuff, you know, because the way the organization was set up, it's just everything was very much like this I was like, suddenly it just became like, what am I doing here? Like this doesn't feel right to me. But because, the pay was so good, and because I was, had a lot of responsibility, and I was in a leadership role, which I really jive with being in a leadership role. And it became more and more obvious that I was like, there is like this whole like set of tools, like interrelating skills that are missing for me. And I knew this, but I was hanging on because of the money and the like freedom that money gave like me for right now.
Yeah.
And it just kind of all came to a head in August. And I was like, I don't think that I want to self-master. That feels so restrictive to me, being like, I am like self-mastery. Yeah, it's a beautiful, like intoxicating concept, but to me, it kind of carries this feeling like dominating myself. Like I'm going to master myself in a way where, I am rigid almost. And that's just my feeling of self-mastery. I'm
No
sure that
longer human.
exactly. You discipline the humanness out of yourself, just for the sake of like a spiritual ideology. And that's what was happening in this group. I was seeing these people who I had grown, these friendships, these work relationships with, sort of like completely like missing the point of the humanness. It was all just to stick to these like spiritual ideologies. Like, oh, well, no, we have to do it this way because this is what it means to be, a self-mastered 5D leader, whatever the heck you want to call it. And I was like, and I kept calling these things out because I started finding my voice in this container. I started saying like,
Awesome.
and it wasn't like a cancel culture type call out. It was kind of just like a, hey, everyone, like, what's this? What's this thing? What are we doing here? This feels kind of off to me, and there were some people who were like, okay, yeah, but for the most part, it was kind of met with this like totally lack of empathy, very like devoid of like emotionally intelligent, like camaraderie with your fellow people kind of vibe. It was very met with this like cold, like, well, you created this. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I did like a major thing and I quit. I left off the edge, and it just, a lot of things are in that container crumbled as well. Quite a few people left, and it sort of was like this tumbling out. And I feel like after I left that, I was like, wow, holy shit, like this was such a blessing, because I got to see all of the things that I don't want, and I don't want to be. Like, I don't want to be someone who is self-mastered. I want to be someone who allows the messiness and takes responsibility for it, and I don't want to be to the point where I don't ever want like make a mistake because I'm so self-mastered, or I don't want to be that monk sitting in a mountain kind of thing. Like, that's not what I want to be and do. And so I'm so freaking grateful that I got to experience that, because it showed me exactly what I don't want. It was that contrast that I needed to be able to be like, wow, that's not for me. And what is for me, all the stuff that's left, like that, once I discarded that like middle place of like interrelating, skills and maturity and like ownership and accountability and like learning to like sit and listen and like and balance caretaking with like being there for someone. Just all of these like things that I've been learning in the background for many years. Oh man, that's where I want to be. I want to be right smack in the middle of the human experience. I've heard people call it like the inverted 3D, where you like go in, the 3D, sure, and then you go and learn the 5D, and then you come back and basically bring skills that you've learned to. And I hate using these labels because honestly, I'm so over all of those labels. But
Yeah, I agree.
It's like this middle place, the middle place where everything has its place, like Western medicine, Eastern medicine. There's good things in both. I'm not going to be this person that's like screw doctors forever, just for the sake of holistic, or naturopath. Like, I think everything has its place. Everything has its place. And mostly to show us like what we don't want or what we do want. In the case of me, with this, big last few months. So that was
Wow. Now, to me, that's self-mastery right there. That's what I would call self-mastery for sure. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So
It was wild.
then in the middle of all of that, you change your last name.
Ryan and I actually got married in February this year, but we didn't tell anyone because we were going through so much at that time. I had just gone through a miscarriage, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. And we were also being radiated like crazy by this panel of smart meters that was on the outside of our house. This panel, like 17 of them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we very abruptly had to move in June this year just because it was costing both of us like so, like I couldn't sleep. Like I was crying all day long. It was just this like totally being radiated to, I can't explain
Where
it. It's
did
like
where did it come from?
it was, we lived in an apartment complex. And so you know how they kind of upgraded everyone to smart meters over the last little while.
Mm-hmm.
Smart meters are constantly pumping out information, constantly. And the amount of RF, radio frequency radiation they give off is equivalent to one full cell tower. So we had 17 of them attached to the wall of our bedroom in our apartment.
Oh my God.
And so at night, it was literally like buzzing all night. And we were just like, oh my God. So it got really bad. Like I was nauseous all the time. I had, sorry everyone, chronic diarrhea. It was like you were being radiated all day long in a microwave, just feeling like you are completely like sick. Like I couldn't explain. So we had to get out of there. So it's been a crazy,
oh my gosh,
crazy last little while. Yeah. And that actually has a lot to do with where I want to go next, which was a lot of the reason that I was like leaving behind the whole that flavor, that brand of 5D is because around that time we were talking about the radiation, and so many people were gaslighting us and saying things like these super unhelpful spiritualisms. You only let that affect you if you let it affect you. Like you don't have to let that affect you, kind of thing. Oh, it's cool. This stuff doesn't affect me because I'm just, so high vibe or whatever it was. So all of these like very unhelpful like flavors of spirituality were coming out around this time. And I was like, that's when I was kind of just like, I couldn't deal with the fact that, people were saying that these things just didn't affect them because they chose not to. To a certain degree, yes, I absolutely agree with like thoughts influencing reality. I don't believe in thoughts creating reality, but they influence, they co-create with whatever else is going on around there. Yeah. But it was so unhelpful. And that's what I meant about the like lacking that humanness, that like compassion, that there was so much of that going on. I was like, like enough. And that's kind of when I stepped back. I was like, this isn't feeling right anymore. This isn't feeling good. Like we're going through this like crazy, radiation. It was horrible. Like Ryan and I were both suffering in our own ways through that. But like it was like, I can't explain to you the feeling. It's like you're in a daze all day long and you can't escape it because it's attached to the wall of your house. It's like secretly getting carbon monoxide poisoning or something like that on a lesser scale, like all day long. And you can't get out of it. And so, yeah, I'm just sort of like listing off things that we've been through this year because it's kind of bouncing around, but that's because it has been like crazy bouncy year of all those things. So yeah, that was like a big,
wow.
initiator as well, as far as us moving to this beautiful paradise that we're in the woods. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I like that.
There are deer in my yard right now. They are there
Oh.
every day. It is like this beautiful loblolly pine filled forest. It's like a cool kind of pine tree I've never heard of, loblolly. They are common in this area of Texas, and they are so sweet. They look kind of like palm trees, except they're pines. Like
Wow.
like they don't have very many like on the trunk of it, they don't have very many branches, but then at the top there's like it's like a normal pine tree.
Oh,
It's so
neat.
interesting. I know. I don't
Neat.
know. I've never seen them before, but yeah, the whole radiation thing, it prompted us to get out of, the density of the city, and we moved to this small town and in the middle of the woods, and it sort of held us. It's like this little forest cave of just like regrouping.
Oh, that's beautiful. We made the move in 2020. We thought we'd never leave. We were just like a couple blocks from the Gulf and we thought we'd never leave. And then 2020 hit and all the insanity and just being around that massive amount of people, that cluster by the water was like, yeah, we need out. So we hightailed it to the country and we've never been happier. But
Yeah.
unfortunately now the city's like moving out into the country and it's like, no.
Wait, what area are you in again?
Still in Florida, north of Tampa. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, we were really close to I think it's the Gulf as well, near Houston.
Okay.
Yeah, we were just outside of Houston, and now we're very close to Austin, just kind of more in the middle central of Texas. And yeah,
It's beautiful.
it's so much better. I never thought I would be like a non-city person, because I had always been a city person, and this is like a whole new side of me, of being in these woods. I'm like, what? I can just like have a peaceful existence and sort of live on almost the outskirts of town kind of thing. Like, I don't know, it feels so, it's like the trees are holding us in this container that we're in, this like beautiful house with the deer and both of our healing. Like, it's just been really, really beautiful. Of all of those things, like the radiation and everything we went through, that pushed us here. So like, I'm so grateful for it. I wasn't grateful for it in the moment. And I don't believe in finding premature gratitude if you're still reeling about things, but I find gratitude for it now, for sure. And because of that circumstance, I ended up here.
So what's going on in the current now of your life? What kinds of things are you unpacking?
The main thing I would say is I'm revisiting foundations as far as health. I've always been a very curious person and read books my whole life and researched things just to know them. Like, it's such a fun thing for me to do. And yeah, I've been doing some training in mineral analysis lately, and yeah, like ancestral nutrition as well. So yeah, I'm in school right now. I'm a student. But I did graduate from a program where I can do hair tissue mineral analysis and compare that with certain ratios and be able to tell people like what kind of like oxidizer they are, for example, like with their metabolism, how fast their metabolism burns, and what specifically which minerals burn the fastest. And so, yeah, I've kind of been going back to foundations lately, getting nutrition right, and those very basic things that, are so confusing in these days with all the information about nutrition. And, you know what I'm talking about. Everyone kind of has a sense of that, like, what's real, what's the actual like best diet, and like there's the answer is there's no best diet. Everyone has bio-individual needs, but I will be certain to tell you that being a vegan nearly killed me.
Dude, I'm there with you. Seriously. And
Uh,
I love the animals more than anything, but oh my gosh, yeah,
I brought the
I
butter,
have
by the
to,
way.
yes, I love butter.
My co-anchor here today. I just wanted to bring it by. Nice
Okay,
yellow
so what
color.
started the whole butter? And then we'll come back to the whole nutritional stuff. What started the butter comments last night?
I don't even know. I've just been eating so much butter these days because of how good it is for you and how much bullshit we all went through as a collective when it came to
Yes,
like saturated fat and butter being the devil and all of these things.
yes.
Like,
And
uh,
eggs are the devil too, right?
and
You know.
eggs and just like all of those things. Those foods are so nutrient dense, it's crazy. Like
Yeah.
this butter is filled with retinol, which is vitamin A, the active form of vitamin A. There is no bioavailable or active version of vitamin A in a plant-based diet, and you need vitamin A. People are like, but it's in beta carotene with carrots. It's not. That's a very inactive form. You would need to eat like 400 carrots a day in order to slightly hit vitamin A levels. There's certain things in animal foods that you need, like that you can't get it in a
Well,
plant-based
and
diet.
okay, Alzheimer's and dementia going through the roof because you know what? We starve ourselves of fat. We don't eat fat anymore because in the 80s we were told everything should be fat free. Eat all these chemicals.
Vegetable oils, like
Oh,
margarine, like all that stuff.
petroleum, basically.
Petroleum based. Yeah.
I know it's crazy. Yeah, Ryan goes, you mean the FDA lied to us?
Yeah.
They're in cahoots with the CDC, I think.
Totally. So yeah, the basically when I say foundations, like my whole life, I grew up eating I would say standard American diet. Hilariously enough, the standard American diet, the initials, like the abbreviation is SAD, sad. It's hilariously ironic. So I grew up eating that, casseroles and cereal and all the stuff. And then I went right into drinking all the time, teenager to late 20s, almost all of my 20s. And while I was drinking, I was also like totally starving myself. Like I had a major eating disorder pretty much my whole life. Well, I would say from teens to, late 20s. So here you are going from the standard American diet straight into like addiction and starvation. I was so thin when I was a vegan. And it just basically being a vegan allowed space for my eating disorder to just blossom. Like it was like, oh, you just eat a bunch of plants and like you think that you're feeling good, but really you're just running on so much cortisol and adrenaline because your body is making up for the fact that you're missing all of these like fat soluble vitamins that are not found in plant-based diets. They're found in butter. So I was flying on those feelings. I was like, oh my God, I feel so good just drinking all the green juice and, eating cauliflower bowls and whatever else. And really your body is like, cool, you're not going to eat this stuff. Sounds good. I'm going to go to each organ and I'm going to just scoop out all of your stores of these vitamins, like from all the times in your life. And once your body goes around to all the organs and is like, oh man, you're empty. That's when you crash. So that's why people like don't realize they feel so good when they take do these diets and things like that. It's because you can survive for a little while. Absolutely. You can feel good for sure. One day you'll crash. One day for sure. You need these things to survive. So I crashed so hard. I crashed and it was like right around the time that I was like flying high in the spirituality too. So I was like, oh my God, ascension symptoms, blah, blah, blah. Like I was like, I'm ascending so hard. Really what was happening was I was like critically low in magnesium, critically low.
Mm.
And magnesium is required for 3,571 enzyme functions in your whole body. Like, it is such a critical mineral. And I was like basically on empty, because you burn it when you're stressed as well, like crazy. So,
Oh my God, that explains
So-
so much for me.
yeah, I would love to do a hair analysis for
Well,
you.
I'll share my hair analysis with you, which shows I am depleted in every single mineral that there is. So we need to
We'll get
talk
you
after
sorted.
this.
We'll get you sorted.
Yeah, let's talk.
That's what I've been doing is the answer, long answer to your question. I have been rebooting the foundations of my health, reversing being a vegan,
Yeah.
reversing.
But then eating corporate farmed beef and chicken isn't the answer either. You need to find those healthy animals that have lived happy lives, as opposed to the traumatized ones that
Yeah, absolutely.
Nuts.
Sourcing is very important. Ryan and I have been building local relationships with farmers. Like, we drink raw goat milk. We have a farmer who we get a supply from every Saturday at the farmer's market and pick up meat from her straight from the farm. All those sorts of things, eggs from like their chickens in the yard, like all of those things, we're kind of like venturing down this path of almost like homesteading, but with like a very like applicable to modern life twist, I would say. So it's not swinging too far, like I'm off grid. Like,
Yeah.
I believe being able to kind of be in both worlds is where I'm hoping to play. So yeah, back to absolute basics, like the very fundamentals, like learning to breathe. I know it sounds silly maybe, but truly, I have not learned how to breathe my whole life. Like, when you're in, like, when your nervous system is constantly like tense from, so much trauma and stuff, your body doesn't know how to relax. So literally that has been my medicine, is just almost like unfurling my fascia from holding so much tension for so long.
Wow.
So that's been the now moment stuff.
I would venture to say 90% of Americans need just that right now. And if I were to look into a crystal ball, what would be the most healing thing would be exactly what you're doing. All of us, if we were to go back to Little House on the Prairie lifestyles, without all the technology radiating our bodies, with the healthy animals we're raising and feeding and getting rid of the corns and putting in the grass and all of that, that would solve a lot of problems right there, I feel. And then have a bunch of grandmothers running the country.
Totally. Oh, absolutely. That the connection to the food, I think is a major missing piece, because we didn't have grocery stores up until what? I don't even know, the 50s or something, after the Industrial Revolution. We got those things from farmers, and there's like that missing touch of, where did this come from? Is this just like a cool package? Or is this actually going to nourish me? What are these ingredients? And maybe it sounds almost like silly, but the basics they're quite simple once you actually just learn the basics. It's quite simple to be able to determine, this is good for me. This is like a food-like substance. This is a denatured food. Like, it becomes quite easy once you just know the basics. And then it becomes like exciting. Like, you're almost like, wow, I feel so powerful being able to walk into a grocery store, go and pick up, these real foods and leave without like a cart full of junk. And I'm not saying like I never eat junk. It's not like that. Of course, there's a bit of room for everything, of course, but
balance.
But that used to be, more the norm, like, oh, this must be better for me because it's vegan, and it's really just like, I don't know, like fake everything ingredients, but you assume it's better for you because it's vegan, but
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Community, I think, is like the way forward. Community, sharing resources, foundations, just foundations, really.
To me, it's like a whole nother level of self-love. Like
Yeah.
I started working on a project, a book about my cancer journey. And my body started going through all this trauma again. Like my body went into fear because I was playing with that in my mind and writing these words. And I had to literally take a step back and take my body out into the woods and go, you're safe. You're good. This isn't going to happen again. That scenario that created it is gone. You're healed. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for supporting me through this journey. And it's amazing how this has a consciousness as much as the soul that resides in it. And to look at your body that way, it was a big shift for me. On top of all these other things that you're mentioning about the minerals and all of that. I mean, so many things body-wise have been coming in for me this year. So that,
Yes.
and to me, that really solidified the self-love for me. I'm not 100% there all the time, but I am major shifting. And I feel that it's kind of what you're going through too.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Yeah, you touched on something very important there. The intelligence of the body, like your system would remember that, the body remembers, the body knows, it has this consciousness, like you said, it whispers until it shouts, it whispers in symptoms. It says, hey, here's a little thing, here's a little scratch, or here's a little rash, or here's some mucus, sinus, like whatever it is, here's some symptoms. And what symptoms really are is your body attempting to move back to healing. It's undergoing the process. You start having symptoms, that's your body taking one step forward back to healed. Like you get a cut, you don't have to think about it. Your body will just close that thing up and your skin looks good, normal again. Like that, you don't have to think about it. Your body just is always trying to move towards healing. We get in the body's way, obviously. We take, all this, Tylenol or antacids or whatever, like those over the counters, and stop the process, which I think touches on another point of like, the convenience culture, or the what is it called? Immediate gratification, sort of like, I need to quickly chop this pain off and not have it anymore, when really pain can be an excellent teacher. And pain strengthens you, right? Like those who have died and reborn, we know, we know about pain.
Well, it's like bypassing, I'll just pop Advil and bypass all this.
Yeah. When really like your headache might be your body saying, hey, dude, I need some salt. And you just pop a pill instead, and you're like, shut up, headache, go away. And then your body's like, okay, well, now I'm just going to sit here with these toxic chemicals in my body, and I still need the salt that you never gave me. So I'm just going to come back with a migraine tomorrow. Like really make you think about it. So that intelligence is no joke. It is a very real thing. And it is like, that's when I said I was on the precipice of my next journey. I really feel like body and these foundations I've been talking about are my next path. Like I'm in this nutrition therapy program right now. And it's all about all of the systems and ancestral eating. And when I say ancestral eating, I mean like being able to eat beef liver and butter and milk, and all these like whole animal foods, like full range of nutrition. And I am just blown away by everything I learn. Is just, the body is just so intelligent. All of these systems work with each other. They're always working together. It's just amazing. Our bodies are so amazing, so amazing. And And they tell the truth. That's the thing. They don't lie. They tell the truth. If we're experiencing a symptom, it's because something's going on and we need to listen.
Yes.
It's amazing. Oh, my heart is just glowing right now. I could talk about this forever.
I love it. I love listening to it because I think it's fascinating. I never heard the term ancestral. What would you call ancestral eating?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the term, but
But it is. It's the little house in the prairie model, where you go back to
totally
whole foods.
nose to tail, eating all those meats that society has, trained us to see as less savory, like the connective tissue, like eating hearts and organ meats and things like that. Like those things are actually the most nutrient dense part of the animal. And I'm not saying like run out and buy some liver, because that doesn't work for me either. I have liver supplements that are like little pills, so you don't have to really taste it. But a little bit more about that, I guess. There's this doctor, he was a dentist, surprisingly. His name was Weston Price. And way back in the day, he was noticing so many cavities. This is like right at the Industrial Revolution time, of course. So he was noticing all of these cavities in people, and he was like, what's going on? So he embarked on this like worldwide, mission to do research on all these different peoples across the whole world. And every sort of climate and place in the world, they all had their own sort of version of what worked best for them, as far as like, I'm talking like tribes and and groups of people that were more like native to the land and things like that. And everything that they ate, there was similarities in all of the, groups, but the one thing that he noted was that all of their teeth were perfect, because he's a dentist. So he's like, what are all these, what are the things that are the commonalities? And what he had found was that, every version of anyone in these like tribes and these groups all ate all of the animal. They honored all of the animal, whether that's like soup stocks, broth, gelatin in some capacity. They ate that. A lot, so they got all their fat soluble vitamins, in other words. And vitamin K2 is essential for really, really good teeth. How many dentists have you been to that talk about vitamin K2? Not one for me. And I had
they want to put fluoride in there.
They want to toss
it's
all
like,
that stuff
wait,
in there.
what?
Exactly. But vitamin K2 is incredible for teeth. People like reverse cavities just by taking vitamin K2. But anyways, he basically, all of his research, he kind of pulled together, and he spent the rest of his life doing this research. It was like his kind of life's work. And yeah, you can check him out. It's called Traditional Eating. And it's incorporates everything like vegetables, fruits. And it's not a diet. It's just like a way of living. Like it's just sort of a whole foods way of living. It's not a diet. It's not like you do it and it's out of the norm. It just is sort of like a return to basics. It's really amazing.
Yeah. Well, I'm reminded of a time after my daughter was born in 1993. I went hypothyroid. But I had this great DO who put me on pig thyroid, not the synthetic, which helped. And then she put me on a whole foods diet. She's like, you're not going to do sauces. You're not going to do anything from a box. You're only going to do whole foods. And you're going to slowly start introducing these foods into your diet again. Not the box stuff, just the whole foods. I'd never felt better my whole life. But then you hang out with everybody, you're at a party, you're at a function. Food is always the entertainment. I eventually went back and fell off track and all of that. But to just know that, and I'm getting back there slowly again now with whole foods, but it's amazing how much that can shift everything. Like if I have a little bit of sugar now, like I had a piece of pumpkin pie the other day, oh my gosh, my stomach started tumbling all over the place. It's like,
Mm,
I don't want this sugar. Get this shit out of here, And I'm like,
mhm.
wow, you really, really notice it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that that raises an excellent point, because it takes, I think, a really daring and strong individual to sort of make that decision for themselves, that they're gonna, you know, dedicate themselves back into, cooking their own food, so they don't run into all these seed oils that are everywhere, and
Yes.
that they get to like actually, it's almost like a return to like honoring the kitchen as being like the heart of the home.
Yes.
You really tap into that, like it feels very ancestral, like it feels very like you're returning to this like simpler, like what you were saying, Little House on the Prairie, like a simpler way of life, where it's like you slow down, you really nourish yourself. Food is medicine versus something to just like put in your pie hole,
Yeah.
I love that phrase so much. I love a good slice of pie. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Me
But I
too.
totally hear you with the sugar. It becomes very noticeable when you start doing something a certain way and then you stray from that maybe once. You're like, oh wow, like immediate feedback from the body, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, maybe this doesn't work for me, or maybe this is just a
Yeah.
once in a while thing, and I'll know that this is the reaction I can expect.
Exactly. And you touch on, and I never thought we'd be going down this route talking about food,
This
but
is new
it's
me. This is
fascinating
new
to
me.
me. This whole seed oil thing I just learned about this year. I had no clue.
Hmm.
No clue.
Yeah.
I actually for a while, there's a couple doctors that I follow online who talk very similar to the things that you're talking about. And seed oils are what causes us to sunburn. And if
Hmm.
we get the seed oils out of our body, our skin actually craves the sun. It wants to be out in the
Hmm.
sun. Our mitochondria want to be out at that first daylight
Hmm.
coming up over the horizon. And, I'm just learning all these things that I'm like, I have been so hoodooed. I just can't believe the depth of BS we've been
Oh my
fed.
God. It's vast.
Oh, and then she says this too, and I'd love to get your feedback on this. Because this was a big aha for me too. Um, Animals have livers and kidneys to detox things
Hmm.
out of the environment. Plants don't. So they hold all of that with them when they go into your body.
Hmm.
And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
what?
Oh yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. That was a big one.
Absolutely. That I want to go back to what you said about the seed oils and the sun. Oh yeah, that's a big one. Seed oils, literally just like what they are, the base of them, the type of polyunsaturated fats. That's what it's PUFAs, PUFA, polyunsaturated fats. That's the type of fat they are. And polyunsaturated fats are notorious for blocking I can't remember the exact, I forget in this moment. There's a process where when you're in the sun, and you have cholesterol's good, by the way. Cholesterol is a very good thing. That's also a skewed thing, which I will do a whole other
Mm-hmm.
talk on another time. There's a process when you are in the sun that happens with cholesterol and vitamin A, that if you have too many PUFAs in your body, it blocks that process. So when your body's craving the sun, yes, follow that, because it literally is causing chemical reactions, making cholesterol more bioavailable. Vitamin D, which is not a vitamin at all, it's a hormone you get from the sun. It converts all of those things in your body. You literally need the sun to survive. It's like no joke that is the center of things. It's life-giving. It literally is life-giving at the cellular level. It converts absolutely at our very base level, like mitochondria. You need the sun in order to have energy as well. It feeds you. Obviously not too
Yes.
much. You can still burn, but you burn a lot quicker if you're filled to the brim with PUFAs, let me tell you.
Yeah, yeah. And then, you go down the skin cancer route and all of that. And, isn't that funny how we're told, dermatologists everywhere, stay out of the sun, use SPF 50, it's like, whoa.
Mhm. I used to go into the sun and burn within 15 minutes. And then I stopped eating as many PUFAs and I started intaking my vitamin E, which helps not kill off, but helps move PUFAs through you, vitamin E. So I started taking a lot more vitamin E, and now I can sit in the sun for like 30, 45 minutes, no burn, like no sunscreen also, which sunscreen is in a large points is very bad for you. It actually causes skin cancer, apparently. I don't know. I'm not going to hearsay that I've heard these things, but I can now sit in the sun and not get burnt. And I used to be one of those people that like avoided the sun too, or like, wore big hats so it wouldn't touch me and all this stuff. And now I'm just like, I get why people say they're sun chasers. I feel like one of those people now too. I'm like, I need you, give me life. Like it feels so good. And absolutely that's true with the seed oils. Like it was like measurable change for me to not have a burn within 15 minutes. I was like, what is this sorcery? It's
I
true.
know, it's amazing. Yeah, I spent and I could tell too if we went out to eat a little bit, there is no restaurant on earth that I have found yet that doesn't use seed oils. So you're gonna eat out, just know you're gonna put PUFAs in your body.
Yep. To
like
bring
that.
vitamin
Reminds me
E
of
with you.
PUFA, a stinky fart or
I
something.
know. Totally. I know. It's such a funny word. Yeah.
So yeah, it's nuts.
Seed oils are, they're horrible for you. Canola, sunflower, uh, what is like basically all the seeds. Flaxseed oil is acceptable only if you store it coldly and use it in smaller amounts. But I'm talking about those industrial seed oils, canola, sunflower, specifically safflower, things like that. They are basically pressed and like go rancid so fast. It's wild. Really,
and they're petroleum, aren't they? Basically petroleum.
I don't know deeply enough about that side of things, but I know that they are basically forced to extract. They're forced under high heat to extract their oil, which is it's a denaturing process in itself. And then if that oil touches any sort of like light or heat in very specific circumstances, it goes rancid quite quickly. And so then we just ingest that, right? Like now we're just ingesting this rancid oil that was forced out of this seed. A lot of olive oils are also bullshit. There's very specific.
They're fake, aren't they?
They're mixtures. They're like a mixture of most avocado oil, I would say. There's only two brands I know of that is actual avocado oil. And even then I would stay away from avocado specifically. I would do for cooking extra virgin olive, but make sure it's one of the brands that is actually full olive. Tallow, ghee, duck fat, butter, things like that, coconut oil, those things are all okay. The rest of the oils, toss them. Seriously, toss them. You will feel
uncured bacon grease is my new friend.
Oh yeah, we got a bowl of that in the fridge.
Oh, I got a big old jar in there. I'm like, yes.
Oh, it's so good. Makes everything taste like bacon.
Yeah. So, Kris, are you at a place where you're taking on clients yet? Are you still studying, or what's going on in that realm if people want to reach out to you?
So the actual like nutrition program I am still working through. I graduate in July. The mineral analysis and all of the mineral stuff, I graduated and I am very confident in my ability to go through those things with people. I'm going to be launching it in more of like a full capacity. But what I am looking for are a few people to do like free readings for, just to practice on. Perfect. The only thing you need to pay for is your test itself, but I can like do it through my system and get it like a very cheap, I think it's like $120 or something. You'll supply them with hair and they'll present a chart, like a giant like panel of all of these different things. And that's where my skills come in, and I can actually compare ratios, tell you how stressed you are in certain capacities, tell you about all the different minerals and where the levels are, and make recommendations for you. Obviously not medical advice, but I will give you recommendations.
Well, I have a panel. We'll see if
Perfect.
if it supplies you with all the information that you need. But
yeah,
and I would say
blood as well. Don't send me your blood; that'd be weird. But I do blood test analysis and hair tissue mineral analysis as well.
Okay,
so
okay.
it's
Nice.
just like it's a good snapshot to know where you are. Just instead of guessing.
I think this is going to be a much needed thing going forward, because to me, awakening isn't just the spiritual aspect. It's waking up to all the falsehoods that we've been programmed to believe for so many years, and slowly unraveling what is the truth and what is the good and what's the bad and all of that. So someone like you would be a huge asset for someone like me going through this process, going, well, shit, I was fed freaking lean cuisines and Kit Kats my whole life, and now I got to recoup from all that shit. Went through chemotherapy, have no minerals in my body anymore for the past 10 years, need to figure that out. So people are going to start unraveling that and need you, people like you, to assist them in getting back on track. Because if we don't have this vessel, I mean, how can we live our best life here on the planet?
It's true. And like, it feels like a more embodied spirituality when you're actually able to hit those like physical awakenings, as you call them as well, like those foundations. It honestly brings more divinity into your vessels if you're also well nourished, like, so it's like a very much an all of those things approach. Like it matters very much, you can't just whiz around and, think that your minerals don't count just because you've decided that it doesn't matter. Like, you still have a body, and that's something I came back to earth about very hard this past year.
And I think that's going to be a shift for a lot of people. It's hard, and this is going to trigger some folks, but I hear so much in the spiritual community about you have to have the proper diet in order to be a channel for whatever needs to come through, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, I just went back to eating whole foods and meats and all of this, and I have more shit coming through me now than I ever have before. So I'm just throwing it out there.
100%. When I was a vegan and spiritual, like when those two things were coinciding, I was flying so high. But now that I've like learned about these things, now I understand that I was dissociated as fuck. Sorry. I was really dissociated.
Hey, you're free to drop the F-bomb anytime you want.
Dissociated AF. I was running on cortisol. That's the biggest thing. Cortisol makes you feel like you are like it's like adrenaline. You're pumped up, right?
Yeah.
Cortisol you can fly on absolutely for a few years, for sure. Go for it. You will burn the heck out of your adrenals, let me tell you. So understanding that and like coming back into that nourishment, like you were talking about, more like I feel more connected to spirit, to divinity now that I'm in my body, nourishing it with those minerals and the foods that are going to make me feel, like, I don't know, connected to myself. Like you said, it is a form of self-love. It's like the most ultimate form of self-love, to take care of your vessel while you're here.
And this was our gift that we were given for coming into this crazy ass planet.
Like, why
here's your gifted avatar. Take care of it now, because if you lose that suit, you're fucked.
You're out.
You're back there wanting to get back in.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Oh my God. It was so beautiful to talk with you today. I have missed you and I love you. And I am so happy to meet Kris Aguilar.
Everyone, you can also still call me Christy. It's just the shortened version, just because friends usually end up at Kris anyways. And it felt sort of like this next chapter of me, you know?
I like it. I like it a lot.
Thank you so
This
much
was
for
so much
having
fun.
me.
This was so much fun. Yeah, we had some few. Ryan stuck through the whole thing. Dr. Joe was on here. I saw a few other folks. I'm sorry I didn't get your names, but yeah, people have been flying through. This was fun. So I will also be taking this and posting it to YouTube. And hi, Dr. Joe. Love you.
Hi, Dr. Joe.
And posting it to all the other podcast platforms too. So
Amazing.
we'll have
Thank
to
you
do
so
this
much.
again, and give Ryan
Yes.
a big hug for me. I hope he's on the mend.
Yes.
He's
Touch and
got the
go.
best nurse to take
He
care of
does.
him.
He does. He really does. Oh, thank you so much. This is amazing. I love you too. And you're just an absolute joy to chat with.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. See y'all.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.